What up, y'all? It's your boy, the one and only A Switch, aka slap some jelly on my banana so I know it's rough. AKA, please stop rubbing my pants so hard. Oh, I can't even do it, man. I can't. I can't do it. Oh man. God, where do I even go from there? AKA the Komaki Tiger Dropper. AKA the Nigga Lip Master. Bringing you yet another episode of Switches Sites. Episode 194 to be exact. Today's date is September 19th, 2024. It's a great season, you know. The bugs is gone. It's starting to feel like fall. I'm ready for it. I'm so ready. All the games coming out now. Shouts out to Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. Yeah. Damn. It's a great time. For those that don't know, after that, Switches Sites podcast is a podcast where your boy, yours truly, talks about video games and pretty much just that. So yeah, you know what? Without further ado, let's stop the dilly dallying and get right into it. First topic of discussion. Nintendo Indie Direct. Indie and then Direct. There was like two separate ones, but you know they clustered it in the same thing. Happened late last month. But there were some very notable events that transpired. Just going over some of the notable things in particular because it was so much they did cram into it. First and foremost, what I think was the biggest surprise to everybody was Marvel Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Or is it called? Or Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Not to be mixed up with Marvel versus Capcom Fighting Collection 2. Which is basically an assortment of a lot of very, very much requested fighting games. In particular, not Rival Schools, but the sequel to Rival Schools, Project Justice, I think. You got what else? What else you got? You got Capcom versus SNK. I think was it Chaos? Let me look at Capcom Fighting Collection. Capcom Fighting Collection 2. What are all look at the site. So yeah, Capcom vs SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro. That is important. Capcom vs SNK 2 Mark of the Millennium 2001. Capcom Fighting Evolution, which apparently is not that favored from what I hear. I don't think I've ever really played it. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper, not lower. Not lower, but upper. Let's not get things mixed up. Let's not get things misconstrued. You got Power Stone and Power Stone 2. Dreamcast coming back slowly but surely. Project Justice, which I believe is the sequel to Rival Schools, which I think a lot of people were questioning, like, why didn't they get Rival Schools in here? But I'm assuming it's some weirdness licensing issue with Akira, which I think are the original developers of this, or like in cooperation of, or something like that. I don't know. Plasma Sword, Nightmare of Blistane. Like, come on now. Like, you know it. We all know it. You should you should know that. So yeah. And then some features, I think training modes for all the games, which was in the previous ones. I think I saw like a lot of features in terms of the requirements or conditions to unlock like secret characters are like where you can basically just play them from the get go, which I think is very appreciated. Than like having to do five perfect KOs while not being able to block or some shit like that. You know how the old school was. But hey, I'm all for this. A lot of these I've not really played. Like, yeah, the Capcom vs. SNKs I've not played. Yeah, Fighting Evolution. I don't think this particular version of Alpha 3. And technically the Power Stones I never really played, even though I had a Dreamcast back in the day, but Power Stone was never a game I really got into or got in of itself. And like, yeah, pretty much all these I literally have not really played any of these, so I'm very much looking forward to it. Coming 2025 sometime next year. So love that very much. That's great. That's so good. Don't you want it? I know I want it. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything that stood out. Tetris Forever. Oh, I guess this is pretty interesting. It's Tetris Forever, which is like a whole compilation of Tetris games, which I feel like a lot of people are actually, I feel like Tetris is one of those games that's like low, like undercover, like one of the biggest games known to man, but not a lot of people acknowledge it necessarily. But yeah, I feel like this collection is about to do some gangbusters. So literally almost every Tetris game from the past in this massive collection of miscellaneous Tetris games, which in my head, I'm like, is there a reason you want to play the NES version of Tetris? Well, again, I mean, people, nostalgia. I keep forgetting about nostalgia because nostalgia is powerful as hell. Like, it's some games I play solely because of the nostalgia to kind of like take me back, take you back to a time, Goat Simulator 3, I mean, you've been waiting, your answers have been prayers have been answered, Castlevania Dominus Collection, which apparently is the remasters of the DS Castlevania games, which I've never played. I'm curious how that translates to the Switch, considering like it is a dual screen game, so maybe they're like the screens are, I could probably see it like the screens are side to side, and maybe there's that, or maybe they just built in. Now I'm curious actually. I saw the trailers and it looked like it was just like a native game. So I don't know, maybe they just got rid of the menu and it's just okay, so basically they have the gameplay. They basically just condensed all the screens together. So it's one screen that, you know, shows the gameplay, and then like right next to it, like they have the screen that would be on the second screen for the DS, essentially. So it seems like they figured it out. And I guess they probably put, to not make it look weird as hell, they probably, I guess, put the map as well. I don't think, because this essentially looks like 3 screens in terms of like trying to see how it will look like on a DS. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think that's probably how we'll see a lot of DS games maybe eventually come that way. But that's cool. I respect it. Hey, I love me some Castlevania. I've not played, you know, the essentials really. Only the oddly enough the Game Boy Advance ones, or at least the one, the first one that came out. But you never know, man. What else that really stood out? Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster. I've never played Suikoden, so I hear that's really good. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake, you know. You've been fiending. I know it. Outside of that, probably the biggest announcement, personally, very much so. We thought we'd never see the day, but Yakuza Kiwami coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Nobody's safe.
That wasn't the one I was looking for. There we go. I think, especially going by the I think interview with Toshihiro Nagoshi, who developed or was the head for Yakuza for the longest, until he, like, I guess, split up and made his own studio. Basically said that he would, I think he's something along the lines, he would never make Yakuza for the Switch or something like that. Let me look it up. Goshi. Yeah, it's like 2 years ago. Why is probably not coming to Nintendo Switch. Then, even though we technically got Yakuza 1 and 2 HD on Wii U, but that was only in Japan. And I guess, yeah, sold poorly. Which, yeah, was probably another reason why it did not do great. Let me see. First of all, whether our games will run on the Switch is probably the first question. The second is when people are doing things that they don't want to do and you lose the morale and urge to do it. And when it comes to the Switch, it's kind of a system for a younger audience. It's how we picture it in Japan anyway, for kids. So do we want to put a title where we're going and picking a fight in the world and doing all this Yakuza stuff on a Switch? Will people be happy if we do that? And we're not confident that they will. So that's why we're probably not aiming for it. But Grand Theft Auto, all the Grand Theft Autos is on Switch. So that, I feel like that just totally invalidates your statement. But then again, I guess maybe the collection didn't come out at that time. So this was in 2022 apparently, in terms of the interview with IGN. So I don't know. Anyway, it seems like well, we got it. Yakuza 1. I am surprised. I will say that they didn't bundle like 1 and 2. Like I don't know, maybe they wanted people to experience Kiwami, which canonically is the first Yakuza game. And you know, even though Zero timeline wise is, you know, the prequel, but I don't know. I think it's some games it is beneficial to play the first one and then play the prequel. I feel like Yakuza, you get more I think you get more from it if you were to play the first one and then play Zero, even though a lot of people would disagree and like prefer live and die, live and breathe, that Zero is the one you ultimately should start with first, which I guess is subjective, but technically you can't go wrong, of course. But personally, I'm a big proponent of like, starting where the series started, and then like, going after that, which I feel is Kiwami, then Zero, and then, going forward that way. Personally. But either way, hey, this is I'm just morbidly curious more than anything to see how is this going to perform on the Switch in terms of like from a hardware standpoint. Like very curious to see like Digital Foundry work its magic and like get nitty and gritty, so to speak. So that's gonna be cool. And then yeah, I guess sales wise too, of course, but I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be pretty great. Feels like it's gonna be pretty great. And then who knows? Like I don't know. Maybe this could be like, maybe in preparation of Nintendo Switch 2, where there is backwards compatibility, or just in general that this game could be like put in equality with like the PS4 version or whatever, Xbox version. So I guess time will tell. But other than that, that was pretty much, I'd say, the highlights from what I've seen and recall in the Nintendo Direct. So there you go. There you go. Moving on. Shinji Mikami. We all know him. We all love him. I know you do. Don't you deny it. Shinji Mikami, who, for those that don't know, a shame if you don't, but who's the coveted developer? Well, many great games, to be honest. Most notably, more than likely, is the first Resident Evil. He also did the remake, which is even better. Also did did Resident Evil 4 again. Pretty much my favorite game of all time. Of course, God Hand, another great game. So I mean, the track record is there. He was asked in an interview in regards to Dino Crisis, since I believe he produced Dino Crisis, or maybe he did make the first one. Yeah, I believe he made the first one. When asked about the idea of remake or whatever, he said, what did he say? He said it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of space for new Dino Crisis games, thanks to the success of Capcom's Monster Hunter series. So yeah, which that's I think this is a point where I think a lot of fans would very much disagree, because those are two totally different games. I mean, the only relation is that there are dinosaurs technically in Monster Hunter, but that's it. It's not like, it isn't survival horror based. It isn't like Jurassic Park, but with Resident Evil, which I think if we were all presented that that have previous experience gaming, that we totally would eat that up. So it's very surprising, considering Mikami and just knowing like his brain and how he develops games and stuff like that. It's like, and then also considering they even had another dinosaur related game that isn't Dino Crisis, that at least I'll always refer to, but this game apparently called Exoprimal, where they technically were getting their feet in the water in terms of a dino related game, which I don't know, in my opinion, I feel like that Exoprimal at some point in time definitely was a Dino Crisis, but then somehow shifted his identity and maybe didn't want to piss off fans, even though they technically did regardless, because, a dinosaur related game that isn't a dinosaur related game that isn't a Dino Crisis. I mean, by default, is very much going to upset people. But I digress. So yeah, and yeah, at least afterward, Mikami said, "I'm very surprised to hear that in relation to fans wanting more Dino Crisis. The awesomeness of dinosaurs and the stuff you can do with dinosaurs, that's been kind of really nailed down by Monster Hunter in recent years," which, again, hard disagree, because I mean, you get, I guess, slight terror and tension from fighting the monsters, but is absolutely not the same. It's not like a desolate, Resident Evil like type environment where you have limited health and resource management and things like that, where you're trying to avoid and survive, versus like hey, let's all gather together to hunt down this big monster that is like focused on everybody, which I think they're drastically different things. So you know and continuing on, so even if I were to decide to make a remake of or a new version of Dino Crisis, I don't really feel like there's a whole lot of space for that kind of game right now, just since Monster Hunter has become such a big game. But yeah, it is surprising, which I don't see it, Mikami. I mean, I feel like you can do no wrong for the most part, but I just feel like this is where I feel like you are incorrect. People been fiending. I mean, and then you consider like the success of Resident Evil in of itself, and knowing that Dino Crisis is essentially a deviation off that, just Resident Evil but with dinosaurs. It's like that, if you just say that by itself, like that be the marketing spiel or angle. I mean, that alone would sell the game more than anything. But I think it's a matter of when versus if at this point, because I think it's apparent that people do love Dino Crisis, and people been fiending for it. The rallies, shout out to Jaw Muncher, people want it. People been fiending. So we'll see. Moving on. Concord. Oh, the unfortunate tragedy that is Concord. Sales ceasing immediately, offering refunds to all customers. And the game, as of now, has been taken offline, but is being taken offline September 6th. So, man, the writing was on the wall regardless. But Concord, which is the game that wants to be Destiny with a splash of Guardians of the Galaxy, is pretty much the only way I could describe it. But it's like we already got Destiny, and it's not really much of a desire for another game in that space, a shooter even, like not even third person, just for another first person shooter. I don't know, just somebody just wasn't reading the room clearly, especially like considering the reception people had of the game when this was announced this past summer during the PlayStation showcase. It just seems like this was just a bad idea all around. That like just the angle they were going for, like we're gonna be like Destiny, but we're Guardians of the Galaxy, like we're like characters that characters that if you thought from memory would be in Guardians of the Galaxy, but not quite. That's us. That's Concord for you. So expectedly, yeah, it wasn't that great. And then like yeah, when the game went online, launched, I think what at least uh specifically for Steam, mind you that there's the PlayStation 5 version and the Steam version. I think the Steam numbers was like 600, just shy of under 700 people playing online. So I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. So I mean, I guess technically you can assume that PlayStation 5 is gonna would be maybe a bit greater, but I would assume not by much or that drastically, if Steam is any indication. But so in turn, which is actually, this is kind of a first that like a game has been pulled immediately. But yeah, that's what happened. They're literally pulling the game. I think the game is now pretty collectible now, considering that like the physical version. So hey, you Concord fans are rewarded now with, but then again, this could come back, like most likely, and what I'm assuming as well, that like a lot of people are also speculating that like probably eventually come back some way as a free to play game, which I think is probably the best course of action to try to redeem this game at all. But yeah. And yeah, them offering refunds, and then I think for like a lot of the reviewers of the game, they literally took the game back. They're like, access to this game is no longer available, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I guess this game was on Epic Game Store too. So there's that. But yeah. That's wild. That's wild when you think about it. Like most games that come out, they come out and then, they just take the hit on their chin, so to speak, and just ride with it as, as much as they can. But I think considering how much they invested in this game, with like, I'm hearing like what, 5 million ish or something like that, in like what, 4 years of development or something along those lines, that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like at some point you just gonna have to just take it and hope that like, word of mouth catches on. But at least the word of mouth was pretty negative in general. Like, and then of course when you hear the people, like not many people are playing the game, so now it's like, oh, nobody's not really playing it. Then what incentive do I have to want to play it now if nobody else is really playing it, type thing. So very interesting. Yeah, this is, I don't recall something like this. I'm pretty sure it's happened before, but at least to recent memory, I do not recall like a game where, literally put it out and then they just retract it back. So wild as hell. Moving on. The moment, the time has finally come. We got PS5 Pro. We've been waiting for it. We got it. We got it, and it, boy, is expensive as hell. So there was a YouTube video, apparently got leaked, like in terms of the title of the video, which was said PS5 Pro. So people clearly knew already ahead. But Mark Cerny, the godfather of console development, showed his face again, and yeah, pretty much talked about the ins and outs of the PS5 Pro. So essentially, it has a GPU upgrade, has advanced ray tracing, and PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Let me do that again.
PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution,
or Pisser, Pisser for short. I think that's funnier in my opinion, but which essentially is like some type of AI technology that like essentially sharpens the picture, basically makes it look better without the hit on on your GPU or your console in this case. Kind of like what is Nvidia's NDLS? What is Nvidia's I think DLSSR. DLSS. DLSS. So kind of like a version of a DLSS, but in this case for exclusively PlayStation 5. Where yeah, everything is set to look prettier and be higher performing than your base PlayStation 5. So yeah, I mean you got that, and then 2 terabyte hard drive from the one. That's notable. And then yeah, all that for the nice cheap price of $700, or excuse me, $699. Mind you, no disk drive. So this is literally no disk drive. You have to buy that separately, which is the same one that comes with the PS5 Slim, which is $80. So that's $700 already. You add $80 if you want it with the disc. And then there is a vertical stand that is showed in all the advertising and whatnot. If you want that, that's another $30. So, I mean, if you technically want what was presented to you as a full blown PS5 Pro, you gonna have to pay that's a $800 damn dollars for a pro console. It's like, damn, like, do I get anything else? Do I get do I become a better person with this, or and of course VR and 8K gaming also support, which was on the box art for the previous PlayStation 5s, but they removed it because I think it wasn't accurate, and I guess they realized we're not gonna hit this. Wi-Fi 7, which is the latest Wi-Fi standard. I think the base PS5 has Wi-Fi 6, I'm pretty sure. Then they showed a fair amount of games that have already been released and are already out. Nothing new. I guess the only exception is technically Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is coming out pretty soon. But other than that, Alan Wake 2, which has been out. Demon Souls, Dragon's Dogma 2, which I think that probably would be the biggest benefit of playing a PS5 Pro is hearing the performance issues based specifically for a console for Dragon's Dogma 2. Also Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, which apparently the performance mode will be at 60 FPS. So you basically get all the benefits of what fidelity mode, but you get the actual frame rate you're generally looking for. So, and I guess that was also the kind of marquee thing too, was like with those performance modes, now it'll run faster because of the little added juice. Gran Turismo 7, Hogwarts Legacy, Horizon Forbidden West, Spider-Man 2, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which I love how they showed, like, here's the differences between PS5 and PS5 Pro, which technically you can really only notice the frame rate. Of course, like on the YouTube where, the artifact and being able to discern between the two images is very negligible. It's like, all right, hey, PS5 Pro, all right, we ready. So, yeah. So as you would assume, a lot of fans weren't necessarily excited or eager, all things considered, and was presented to us. But yeah, so there you go. PS5 Pro, $699.99. Pre-order is going to be available September 26th, and will be shipping in November. So of course all fans and include myself, like, I don't know, this does not seem worth it. Then today actually, it feel like somebody at Sony had like an emergency button In case of emergency, press this. They also revealed celebrating 30 years of PlayStation with a nostalgic look. So they released, or at least announced the PlayStation 30th Anniversary Collection, which is pretty much the PlayStation line of products in the like coloring scheme as the original PlayStation 1. So they revealed the a PlayStation 5 Slim, which is, you know, in the same color, the PlayStation 5 Portal, which is of that theme, and then PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, as well as the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge controller, which all look great and all come with the cable that, you know, plugs in. Like when you plug it into your PS5, it looks like the PS1 controller cable, essentially, where it has the bulky little memory card looking thing, where it's like a USB-C, but when you plug it in, it looks like it looks like you have like a old school PlayStation controller plugged in, which is I'm very much digging. I'm very much a fan of. I'm very much resisting the urge. So then you got the bundles. So you got the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition bundle, which is limited edition and comes with pretty much all of it. 1 terabyte SSD, DualSense wireless controller and cover for disk drive, vertical stand and collector's items. And then there's the PS5 one that has pretty much the whole kit and caboodle, if you will. Like has literally everything with it, it seems. Has the console, the DualSense wireless controller, the Edge wireless controller, the DualSense charging station, the console cover for the disk drive, vertical stand, and the collector's item. So, and I think these are limited to like 13,000 or something like that. So, good luck. And I think these are exclusive to like the PlayStation store or PlayStation Direct, whatever. So, yeah. Then it's like, okay, now they want to, because I mean, based on alone, like these look very great in comparison to the base PS5 Pro, which, you know, makes me wonder why I guess because of the color scheme in general. Because like I was gonna say, like they should make faceplates for the, you know, classic PS 30th anniversary, but they didn't. But I ain't gonna lie, it looks very, very appealing, very tempting, but that price gonna be astronomical. Let me tell you. I'm trying to, if I could sell my arm, sell my soul to the devil or something. I don't know. But yeah. So there you go. PS5 Pro. The worst kept secret of all time, I say. All time. Moving on. Tony Hawk apparently talking to Activision again. Earlier this week, it was revealed that he's been talking to Activision again. Coincidentally, as the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series is ahead of its 25th anniversary this September. So at least last we were aware that like you know, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, which is a very great game, by the way. I still like play it regularly to this day. Was seemed to be pretty well received, and I think sales wise was pretty decent. But then Activision, I think, the developers of the game, I think they put them to Call of Duty or merged it. Yeah, so they merged. So they scrapped the project because they were going to do Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 after, given the same remake treatment. But they reportedly scrapped it because Activision made the decision to merge them with Vicarious Visions into Blizzard. So basically, it's a support studio for Diablo and other titles. So that was like, oh damn, well, that sucks. So all hopes for 3 and 4, maybe a Thug remake, all out the window. But now, I mean, considering that Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard, and now considering Tony Hawk is talking with Activision again, things may be back. Maybe they could have put Vicarious Visions back to make 3 and 4. Consider we don't know how long into development they were on 3 and 4 before they scrapped it. So that's my guess. Probably around the exact anniversary, might get a announcement that 3 and 4 is on its way or something like that. I think that's probably the best case scenario. Shoot, even better, they show us, not show us, but announce a Thug remake on top of that. That would be phenomenal. That would be extravagant. But time will tell. But hey, my hope in Tony Hawk, faith, if you will, has been restored. There. So you're telling me there's a chance. So yeah, that's good to hear. You love to hear it at least. Yeah. That concludes all the news for this episode. Get into what I've been playing recently, which has been Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I did finish it since last episode for sure. You know what? We're gonna get a little spoilery. The game came out like 9 months ago, so I think we're safe here. We'll keep it based first and then get in the nitty gritty for the most part. But yeah, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Like, I've had some time to, think about it after everything was said and done. It was okay. I'll say that. It was all right. Story-wise, it was kind of meh. For the most part, it was kind of meh. Of the two, I think I definitely enjoyed 7 or Like a Dragon more. As a whole, there's definitely aspects in this one that I do like compared to 7, especially Kiryu, of course. Just the inclusion of him in general. But yeah, I don't know. The story just felt a little all over the place, to be honest. I think a lot of that had to do with not really a huge spoiler in general, but the structure of the story, how they have it. So basically, it starts out with Ichiban being the main character and Kiryu kind of being like his supporting character, essentially, in his party. And then eventually, at a point in the story, they split up where Kiryu goes back to not Kamurocho, but Okinawa, I want to say. And, basically does his thing separately from Ichiban, where there is some slight connectivity loosely, but more or less is pretty much separate for the most part. Which I don't know. Part of that was kind of iffy, and yeah, I don't know. That made things a little weird, where it just felt like it was they were trying to do a little too much in this, in my opinion. I feel like I kind of see the intention for sure, where it's very apparent, like, within the first 10 hours of this game, they tell you, hey, Kiryu has cancer. So it's like, oh fuck. they don't it's like, oh hey, he's gonna die, pretty much. That's obviously where I'm at. Like, oh my god, he's gonna die. Like, are they actually gonna kill him? Is it really gonna happen? Blah blah blah. But yeah. So yeah, I think that's mainly my issues there. And then I don't know. Also, of course, as somebody who is a huge fan of the original Yakuza games, where it's a traditional beat 'em up RPG. Yeah, essentially a beat 'em up RPG. I just feel like it yeah, I'm just not a fan of turn based for this, even though it works in general. But obviously having the affinity towards the traditional beat 'em up style, and now having to, get acclimated or used to accepting the it being turn based now is more so my dislike. Like I was able to tolerate it with 7. It was like fresh and new. It's like, oh, this is kind of cool little take, whatever. But then I was like, this one, like, I'm cool. I think we could stop doing making this turn based. We could just do it beat 'em up style now. Which I'm hoping maybe they do that with the next one after this one. But I don't know. Or like they do like kind of what they did with the man who erased his name, the little Kiryu sub story thing, or a sub game where they do it where it's something like that where you know it's maybe a smaller game as a whole, but it's still traditional beat 'em up Yakuza, just not as big as like the main ones. Which even though I say that, but I do still technically want like a huge big beat 'em up Yakuza game again. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, like in terms of just like the gameplay is pretty good. Like like as a base like game loop or whatever is pretty great, but it's just that inkling, that desire, that intense desire of just like I just want to run and beat people up rather than having to wait turns. Where and again, as somebody who is also a fan of turn-based strategy games or turn-based games, RPGs, it just knowing where this series came from, and now it's turn-based, especially considering how very few and far between there are beat 'em ups, let alone RPG beat 'em ups, is kind of where I have issue. Because it's one thing if like, oh, beat 'em ups left to right, beat 'em up RPGs left to right, but that is very rare nowadays. And like Yakuza was one of the last few remaining ones, and now it's kind of like a distant memory, it feels like. So I don't know. But yeah, I guess going back to the game as a whole, specifically going back on Kiryu's death, quote unquote, you could definitely tell throughout like playing this game, it felt very it did feel very like, oh man, I think they're gonna kill off Kiryu. I think they're really gonna kill him off. Blah blah blah. And it, at least I thought it was either going to be that, or they were just going to make it very apparent that like, hey, Kiryu's no longer going to be a main character in these games, or like the lead character in any of these games going forward. That was also the vibe I was getting too. That like, hey, this is his last hurrah type deal, which both were kind of true. And to be honest, I was content. I was satisfied with how they ended his storyline in this, where basically spoilers, essentially he doesn't die. He just has cancer that he's still fighting, and that is pretty much has made him frail now. So like he's just like not the Kiryu you knew and love, which I'm okay with that. It's like he could still probably be like a dojo, a new Kamaki in like the next Yakuza titles or something like that. Maybe have like a few moments, cameos to shine here and there. I'd totally be content with that, because I do feel like Ichiban is a worthwhile replacement for Kiryu, which I'm surprised that I can say that. But no, I feel like he is a worthwhile likable character, where he does add to the Yakuza series in his own way, while not taking away from, what Kiryu himself has established. He has a totally different vibe, but very aloof and like, carefree and like, just a full of love to give everybody type vibes, which, is obviously very different from Kiryu, who's very stoic, but also, deep down inside cares about people and things like that. So, it's tough, man. It's tough. I mean, yeah. So based off that, I will say, yeah, I am satisfied with how they did handle Kiryu and like how it seems pretty apparent that like this is kind of his last game for the most part. That, kind of like a passing of the baton from, Kiryu to Ichiban. So yeah, I was surprisingly satisfied with that. I thought I was going to be way more upset and displeased, but no, I feel like they handled it very well, all things considered. So yeah, but yeah, I guess, yeah, that's just my main concern / gripe with what the next Yakuza is going to be, because I feel like that's going to really determine a lot in terms of my enthusiasm with like, continuing the series at this point as well. Because not gonna lie to you, I feel like I had a few moments where it felt like Infinite Wealth was a slog. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think in general it's just me not really feeling like turn-based is the way to go for this series going forward. But I feel like I'm in the minority in that front. But I guess we'll see. It would be cool maybe to do I don't know. Then again, that's a lot of work in of itself. But like maybe make it where it's a beat 'em up version and RPG version, or turn-based versus beat 'em up version, and maybe kind of see how that works out sales wise or something like that. I don't know. Kind of like Pokemon, like make you got red and blue, even though they're not 1-to-1 comparisons, but like I don't know, maybe gives you a better indication of like a live survey of how people respond to the game, or how they should go for it, which I guess on paper it will probably most likely be the turn-based version over the beat 'em up version, but I don't know. I just feel like it's some way that they could I guess not. Part of me wanted to say that there is some way that they can make the series appease to both people, which they kind of did in this one. I'll admit, with Kiryu's like style, where like he eventually unlocks it later in the game, where he has this moment where he can basically disregard the rules of turn-based and like go around beating up people, but they can't fight back. So it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's like, hey, hey, were you a fan of the previous Yakuza games? Hey, you can kind of get that. You can kind of scratch that itch if you like imagine hard enough, So it was cool. It was like a nice, I don't know, nod to fans of the previous games, but still, wasn't enough for me. But best believe Kiryu stayed in my party almost every chance I could get, for sure. So, I don't know, man. I will say I'm very concerned where the Yakuza series is going to go forward now after this, for sure. Especially like, Nagoshi has since gone. I think this is the first Yakuza game fully. Well, no, I think the man who erased his name also was also totally developed without any involvement in Nagoshi at all too. So I don't know, man. I just don't know. But yeah, also played of course, Earth Defense Force 6, EDF, EDF, which is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic entry in the series for sure. Man, where do you even start with Earth Defense Force 6? I don't know. First and foremost, it's a great game, nonetheless. I mean, that in of itself, that needs to be established. I mean, it's more of the same. Earth Defense Force, janky, B movie, very self-aware, janky, video game that is kaiju monsters, really big creatures, and all that stuff. But it's just some irresistible, undeniable charm to it that is hard to kind of like deny. That I feel like has always been the main appeal for Earth Defense Force games. When we're absolutely not acknowledging or talking about Iron Rain, which was not developed by the same people at all, and it's very apparent that it wasn't. So but yeah, no, it's great. Earth Defense Force, it's a good time. I'm trying to think. It's funny. It's a PS5 version and a PS4 version, but man, you could tell it's damn near no significant difference between the two. It feels like, at least, like it's like, oh, this is on the PS5. Well, I'll give credit that, like, I don't know. I feel like compared to 5, that they did, like, took liberty of adding more like enemies on screen. And like world environments than like previous games, so I can give it that. I am curious like the differences between PS4 versus PS5, but I guess technically they might be roughly similar to an extent. But yeah, Earth Defense Force 6. The story, well, whatever remnants of it is very interested in terms of like not really spoiling much. I mean, and then again, this is Earth Defense Force. It's like you're not really going to these games for the story, really, but the game takes liberty of doing a lot of time jumps, and like at first you're like, oh, okay, all right, time jump, all right, and then you get to another certain period of the game, okay, another time jump, and then oh, okay, wow, they're really going in on this. They're really going full force. So yeah, that's been fun. Funny in terms of like, oh wow, like you think like previous games like, oh, okay, yeah, they're very self-aware, but then like, oh wow, they are really self-aware right now. So I enjoyed it. But yeah, I beat it damn near 80 plus hours to do all the missions, at least for me. Of course there were some missions, boy, they were tough as hell. Run into whatchamacallit, some rough points where a lot of enemies. It's crazy. Like I would record some of the funny videos, like like, oh my god, this is kind of ridiculous right now, where it's just like a lot of enemies on screen to manage at once, and like coming from all fronts, and it's like, damn, wow, it's like you just get acclimated to it. I guess the missions gradually kind of progress you towards it in a way. So but but yeah, that's EDF for you. But overall, I mean, hey, I'm biased, clearly. I just it's just something about the charm of these games, and just the very self-aware corniness of these games that just really reel me in. Yeah, just very just just corny to the nth degree, really. I'm glad you made it out alive. I didn't think you would make it out this far, or something like that. But you'll know what that means when the more if you were to play it. But EDF 6 was a great time. All things said and considered, I can't wait. They could keep making them. I'm gonna keep falling for 'em each time. I mean, what's there not to love about shooting ridiculously huge ants and spiders? Well, I guess maybe not spiders if you have arachnophobia or whatever. I'm surprised this game doesn't have that feature where like a lot of games that accommodate folks that have arachnophobia or some form of that, where like I forgot what they call it, but basically it's a mold that like I think turns these spiders into something less threatening that aren't like directly spider related or something like that. But yeah, you'd think a game like this would have, but I don't know. I guess maybe that's the part of its appeal that it's like, well, if you don't really like big spiders, I don't think you'll really enjoy, because there's other various creatures similar in nature. But I digress. EDF 6. It's a great time. You should play it if you're a fan of. Shoot, if you're a fan like Godzilla, I guess any other B movie kaiju related thing. I feel like there's a lot to enjoy here with EDF 6. But that's just me. I guess. And with that being said, I think that'll conclude episode 194 of Switches Sites. If you did enjoy this podcast, feel free to like, rate, and subscribe on various podcasting platforms. You can catch me record this live on Twitch TV/aswitch. You can also catch archives of this stream on youtube.com/aswitch. And yeah, until next time, y'all. Feel free to fuck. Get your damn game on. Oh yeah. Nobody's safe.